Welcome, everybody. Tonight's good to see you. I think I got my mic working. I'm without Doug tonight, so it feels a little lonely, but that's how Denver After Dark is sometimes. Sometimes when you go to the bar, there's 5 or 6 people sitting around. You're talking at them, having a great time. And there's some nights you go there and you're alone and you're sitting there and you're nursing a whiskey or a Guinness. And you're just listening to the soft music the bar's playing, or maybe Megadeth or Pantera. And you're sitting there and just thinking about life. Or maybe it's Billy Joel. Maybe it's Oasis. I don't know. Elton John, Van Halen, Boston. It's probably Boston. That's what it is. But it's great to see everybody tonight as everybody gets on. And I know a lot of times I start with story time, and I am. But I needed to start with somebody that you might have heard of, at least the last name of McCain, Meghan McCain. I think people, if they don't know, that's the daughter of John McCain. And I'm glad Cletus has Lagavulin, and it's going to be hard for me to see the board tonight. I don't have Doug flashing it up, but this is fantastic. I hope everybody has a little bit of adult beverage with them. And listen, if you're a teetotaler, that's okay. So here's the thing. Meghan McCain, she's on Twitter. Hey, listen, she says this this is in terms of Charlie Kirk's killing. And I guess it's referencing the fact that she's a Republican and a Christian. Here's it goes. I legitimately don't know how to come together in unity with a group of people that would prefer me, and all people like me are dead. What? Kids of famous senators? What are you talking about? Now, of course, she's alluding to the fact that somehow she's a victim in this, or that she can't breach the divide between the evil left on anybody non-MAGA. Let's be honest, too. It isn't just about the left. It's anybody non-MAGA. She can't breach that divide because of what happened to Charlie Kirk. Well, I got some stories for you tonight. Meghan McCain is ludicrous. And it's this kind of sort of this breathless influencer, or somebody who wants to be validated, somebody who wants clicks. That's all Meghan McCain is. Maybe, one of those sort of worthless, sort of, what is it, like barnacles on the boat of the United States that you just want to scrape off. But that's really what it is. But you guys should go take a look at that. It just made me laugh before I tell my story. And tonight, I know this is going to surprise people, but this story is about Bigfoot. I know. We have such a hellacious evening tonight. But as people get on, I hope you're ready for this, and I think you're going to appreciate this. So I hope everybody has heard of the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1967. It was filmed in Bluff Creek, a tributary to the Klamath River. I know it very well. As you guys know, I wrote Bigfoot It's Complicated about disinformation and people who have allowed Bigfoot belief systems to encompass their life, and also about the grift and the money that's made off of mining those Bigfoot believers, right? There's millions and millions and millions of dollars in Bigfoot belief systems. We actually should have a whole show about how that pyramid of money actually flows up to the top. It's almost like a hairy Ponzi scheme. You know what I mean? So you have all this going on right now. So anyhow, when I was writing the book, this is back in 2008, I was doing a project for the National Security Agency in Seattle. And I won't go into that too much, guys, because it wasn't alien stuff, okay? It wasn't alien stuff. So as I'm driving up there, I'm talking to one of the Bigfoot screamers. He was a friend of mine. Yes, a Bigfoot screamer, guys who yell for Bigfoot. If I can tell that story again too. So he was telling me when I was going up the interstate, I was meeting in a diner with some people, and wait till you get to this, that there was a orchard where Bigfoot was seen scratching his back. So anyhow, I'm like, well, what? Okay, anyway, I did not know that Bigfoot used apple trees to scratch his back, but obviously sometimes when you go out in the woods and you gift Bigfoot an apple, he's supposed to give you like a torn off squirrel head or something. So maybe he was just collecting apples to eat or something like that. I'm not going to probably do those movements like that much again as I'm doing this show. So anyhow, who am I going to meet, guys? Patterson-Gimlin film. As you know, Roger Patterson, he died of cancer in 1972, but Bob Gimlin, born in 1931, this is 2008, and he's still alive in 2025. Bob Gimlin agreed to an interview from me at his favorite local diner. That's right. It's in the book, Bigfoot It's Complicated. You can get it on audiobook also, where I added actual Bigfoot sounds in the book. So I went to Bob Gimlin and I had a massive interview with him about what happened that day with Roger Patterson with the Bigfoot film. And guys, you should know what this Bigfoot film is. You know, the very famous film, walking up the river, it gets jerky, they fall off their horses, and they decide not to follow Bigfoot. And I mean, it's only the biggest damn find in the history of zoology and evolution. But I guess they were scared to go in the woods with their horses and guns. And they had hunting rifles with them. And to be honest with you, I don't know. There's the no kill and kill crowds for Bigfoot. But anyhow, I digress. So I'm sitting across from him, and he's telling me about Roger Patterson wanted to monetize the Bigfoot film at local schools and churches and with people around the country. Bob Gimlin was not comfortable with that. He thought it was more scientific, so what he told me, and that it should not be used for those type of purposes. So one day, Bob Gimlin gets a call and says, listen, Roger is at a get-together, an event, and they're collecting cash to watch this film, and it says that Bob Gimlin is with him, and I know you're home. Pretty interesting, right, y'all? So Bob proceeds to tell me that Roger Patterson had hired a double to play Bob Gimlin at school halls so that they could charge and talk about the Patterson-Gimlin film. Pretty interesting, huh? So I asked him this question. I said, Bob, you said that you did not hoax this. That's right, Denver. I did not hoax this. And I asked him a question he has never been asked before. And by the way, guys, I don't like to brag, but if you've been in the intelligence business long enough, at that time I'm 38 years old, if you've been in the intelligence business long enough, you know specific questions that could turn. And those questions are not about whether he was involved as a question, but a statement or a question about others that could have fooled him. So here's what I asked him. I said, did Roger Patterson hoax you? Now, of course, I don't know if you guys know this, Bob Hieronymus has already come out and said that he was the guy in the Bigfoot suit, right? I mean, and most people about the same height, very tall guy, very odd gait. You can go look that up. Also, listen, guys, the Patterson-Gimlin film is not just obviously faked. It's not even a very good one. So anyhow, but of course you have all kinds of people, right, that say they are. And by the way, R.I.P. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who just died. He was one of the foremost Bigfoot primatologists in the country, I think at Idaho State or one of those universities in Idaho. And anyhow, so I know too much about this. I'm so sorry, everybody. So anyhow, Bob Gimlin proceeds to look at me. He steps back. I'm eating pancakes. And he goes, well, I didn't think of that. So as we're going along with the conversation, Bob, said there's no way it probably could be, but there was a lot of weird things that happened. He was accused of being a murderer. He had people who were Bigfoot believers said that he had murdered the Bigfoot family and they buried them there because they had heavy equipment. He had people try to accost him and his wife because of the Bigfoot film. Roger Patterson dies in 1972, apologizing to him, what he had done to actually monetize it by faking this other Bob Gimlin. Think about how crazy this is, what I'm telling you, everybody. I hope that you're getting what I'm putting out there right now. So he goes, Demmer, let me tell you a joke. I said, sure. And he goes, well, you've heard all this stuff. I said, yeah. He goes, well, you know how a fairy tale begins, right? I said, well, how's that? He goes, once upon a time. I said, okay. He goes, you know how a cowboy story ends? I said, how's that, Bob? He goes, wait till you hear this shit. And that was really the end of the interview. And I know it sounds climactic. I know it's like there's no way, Denver, that you had an interview with one of the founders, one of the members, one of the people who filmed the most famous Bigfoot film in history. And that's how he ended it. You know why, guys? Because there's a part of me he was telling me that he was full of shit. And I know he would say that's not true. Bob's been out there multiple times. Go look him up on YouTube. One of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met. And him and my wife became fast friends. Incredible horse person, right? Knows how to train horses. And just, for me, seems like a man with integrity. But interestingly, that's how he wanted to end the interview. And I'm not completely stupid. And you start wondering about how things can be memed, or you can have this long range made up thing that becomes so metastasized, so memed in society that becomes real, that it blooms into something uncontrollable and something you can't even refute, because if you do, it takes away who you are. It actually takes away the foundational thing of what makes you you. And if we think about religion, if we think about belief systems, if we think about all of that, how can you refute what made you you, even if you know it's shit? How do you do that? And what if that's what buttresses? What if that's just the foundational thing of what made you you after that? And you can't walk it back. And you know, there's people out there that are saying, I don't know. There's a, you know, Bigfoot, like some unknown creature. Interestingly, that was seen right in the area of the faked footprints in 1958 in Bluff Creek, right? Faked. We know this. We know they were faked, and we know how Bigfoot was coined, right? And we know that sightings exploded, just like UFO sightings after 1947 in Roswell. What if the foundational thing that makes you you is wrong, but you can't refute it? Or what if that is what you have to eventually believe, is that it was real? What if it becomes really part of who you are? And what if you can't turn from that regardless? So that everything is a victimization thing. Everything is a grievance thing, right? If somebody says Bigfoot's not real, well, I saw him, I filmed him. I am this guy. Or as the stories you guys have heard me tell about military officer that I knew who thought that Bigfoot visited him at night, right? Hovered over his bed. The Quaventalur, the mystical Bigfoot, the interdimensional traveler, protecting us in the 270 million plus war in the harmonic universes. Why am I getting angry? You guys like, Deborah, you just told a story about Bigfoot. You shouldn't be angry. Good Lord. The reason why I'm angry is because belief systems should not be driving policy, or belief systems should not be getting in the way of facts and truth. And that is what this whole country is now based on, what you've seen this week. There's a lot I want to get to. I also want to get to some things about when you're looking at belief systems and how they actually totally encompass you. When you have Meghan McCain, when you have people that victimize themselves on something that had really nothing to do with left on right violence or right on left violence, when it had to do with accelerationism, when it had to do with something being called black pilled, when Thomas Crooks is not being brought into this conversation, the person who took a shot at President Trump right before. If we're not having conversations about Thomas Crooks, along with Tyler Robinson, we've actually missed the boat on what radicalization is. Whether you're looking at 4chan, whether you're looking at Reddit, looking at Discord. And yes, I'm 55, but I'm really good at this. And I see a lot of great videos coming out about what being black pilled means and accelerationism. And I want everybody here to go look at what black pilled means. But I also want you to go get a documentary. It's called Feels Good Man. It is about Pepe the Frog. And that'll help you give a baseline of how something that's benign can be turned into something that's alt-right or evil in a way based on how you want to look at it, or as a meme thing, right? For nihilists or groypers, far-right, alt-right types of edgelords, you need to look at this. So I want you to go get Feels Good Man, a fantastic, let's see, I think I have that up on my link here, everyone. So let me just take a look real quick. That's right. It's directed by Arthur Jones. How would I know about this? Because my good friend Giorgio Angelini was a cinematographer, actually came here and wanted to film me about the actual linkage between J6 believers and Bigfoot believers, which there's tons of them. Except Bigfoot believers didn't storm the Capitol, try to overturn a free and fair election, which would have been more interesting as far as a grouping. Not going to lie. Can't imagine thousands of people dressed in Bigfoot costumes sort of besieging the Capitol. Be a hell of a picture from space. I think what I'm trying to say, folks, is that when you're looking at people who are saying this is somehow a religious war, that it's us and them, that people who profess to believe in the childlike and peaceful persona of Jesus Christ thinks there should be an annihilation of the left, right? When you have Mule Team 6 right out there talking about civil war, And you have people that are taking the belief system, something fantastical, something that can't be proven. And I'm not trying to, this is a very difficult thing, right? Because this could get me, in trouble with people who aren't listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. But as somebody who's not particularly religious, I find it interesting that people are mythologizing or victimizing themselves on something where only just going one layer deep, you can see that this was most likely an accelerationist who had Groyper memes on bullets, right? And something that looks like what a Thomas Crooks type of profile is, because it's almost always that. There's a reason that I can be a little bit right, is because past performance is based on, past performance really predicts future performance, but also the data, it's sort of baselines it out, right, guys? Young white males are an issue. White males are an issue when it comes to this particular type of crime. It's just where we're at. And yes, is there left and there right-leaning political violence? Of course there is. But what we have is we have accelerationists getting exactly what they want, because we have an administration that wants to make a conflagration of what's happening right now for their own political means. And what you're looking at is a lot of white nationalist behavior intertwined with Christianity. And that's what's happening. That's why I get angry. Because you know how a cowboy story starts. Wait until you hear this shit. And that's what we're seeing right now. And while all this is happening, while you see accelerationists who are black-pilled, and what does that mean? I'm going to go really quickly, and then I'm going to get into what's really important this week. The Charlie Kirk killing was not the most important thing happening this week. Not. Huge movements in the United States of America that could affect us for a long time. When you're looking at jobs reports, the economy, right? When you're looking at the Maxwell emails, when you're looking at the lies that she said to Todd Blanche, we're looking at Ukraine and Poland. I mean, the list goes on and on. But black-pilled really are accelerationists who believe really that there's no point to what they're doing, except they want to accelerate the end of society as we know it. It's nihilistic. And that's why when you look at Thomas Crooks, or you look at people that are in the Groyper movements, or you look at people in the alt-right movements, it's why law enforcement, older gentlemen and ladies, can't really figure out what all this stuff means. It doesn't mean anything. It's a meme war. It's mimetic warfare. This is what it is. It's nihilistic. So that means that we have our online radicalization problem, and a radicalization problem with young males that is metastasizing at a rate that's very hard to define. And instead of looking at the real problem, we're looking at non-existent problems. And we're creating hate between multiple groups. We're polarizing this country for authoritarian means. That's it. It's that simple. I say that's simple. There's a complexity to that. But that's why when you're looking at it, again, you need to go look at black-pilled. And again, you want to look at some of the beginnings of this. Now, it goes before this, but feels good, man. Again, Arthur Jones is the director. Go watch that documentary. While that's happening, we have Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein exchanging emails. Now, this is why what has been suppressed in the press, because we have this continuous motion of Charlie Cook memorials every day. Like, I mean, ridiculous, Kennedy Center and things like that. And people might say, oh my gosh, it's unfeeling. No. Nobody wants to die in political violence. It's awful. But how about we have a Kennedy Center tribute for the kids? When does that ever happen? So let's not be stupid here. So I brought up something. I'd like to read an email between Maxwell. Look at this. Denver's all prepared, right? I'd like to read an email between Maxwell and Ghislaine. Now, by the way, remember that Ghislaine, she told investigators, Todd Blanche, the obviously ethical attorney for Donald Trump, said that she really, after 2003, she didn't have a whole lot of linkages to Epstein, but these emails are prolific all the way up to 2022. Oh, maybe she was lying. I know it's hard to believe, guys, but a perjurer and child rapist might be lying. So here's one of the emails. Question, Epstein wrote to Maxwell on May 23rd, 2008. Which one do you prefer? Lewd and lascivious conduct, or procuring minors for prostitution? That was 2008. And if you look at these 18,000 emails, there's some pretty good pretty good discussion about that. But I don't even know if you guys have been tracking the Maxwell emails, and I hope you're talking to each other on content. I hope you guys are sharing information right now. Have you been looking at the Maxwell email content? And what I would ask, what I might have my company do is actually take all 18,000 emails and summarize it, maybe through an AI or some kind of, we can do that, I'm not saying some kind of AI, it is our AI. But if there's really savvy technologists out there that are on this thread, why not? Why not take a big ingest and take a look at the summarization of those emails and see what you can find? It would be really interesting. Obviously, you got to build some guardrails. Hope you guys know how to build the rules, do some of the tuning. There's a lot to it. I don't know if you just want to ingest it into ChatGPT or into Anthropic or whatever. But if you got some savvy folks out there, I think you should look at them. So while all this is happening, right, you sort of have this global dress down, right, of what's happening over in Ukraine. Now, we haven't got to Israel and Gaza, guys. Haven't even got there. There's so much, right, that's happening in this world, right? Especially the jobs reports, right? And when you're looking at what's going on with tariffs and manufacturing, 6 months in a row regression, you now have the fears of stagflation we're seeing here at our distillery. But when it comes to the Maxwell emails and Epstein, I would humbly submit that what you're seeing at the flood the zone and this political thing of this Christian nationalism fervor that the left is somehow responsible, and sadly, this trans hate that you're seeing out there, this transgender hate, when it's ludicrous, right, to think that at all. Because guys, I've done a lot of studies in my life and I haven't seen a transgender crime wave ever. Have you guys seen? I mean, are there transgender camps out in the woods and they're all out there training? It's ridiculous, right? So it's just hilarious. There are no transgender crime waves. I'm just going to put that out there right now for everybody to hear, right? So I love that. I'm looking at Scout says groomers and groypers. So that's fantastic. That's alarming alliteration. So what I want to say here is this bevy of activities, this flood the zone is really an Epstein file distraction. And everybody's like, oh God, then, you should have funerals. You should have tributes to people. If there's a significant portion of the population, they can have as many tributes as they want. But Kennedy Center honors, flying in Air Force Two, having the vice president carry the casket. This is specifically for the 2026 midterms. And to me, it's disgusting. Even the speech by Charlie Kirk's wife, I found unsettling, to say the least. I just wonder, I would hope that my wife, say I'm 82 years old, right? And I die. I would hope there's not something the next day that has a cap of the president who supports me on the desk. There's something really wrong about all of that. So we have Maxwell, we have the Charlie Kirk murder. We have the brimstone of artificial righteous indignation to cast a minority group as a hate-filled sociopathic or psychopathic group that's killing Christians. That's what they're saying. We have all that happening, which is ludicrous. They just have to be honest, right? We just would have to a facts-based FBI, but you can't with Kash Patel because he's too busy worshiping Valhalla. So here's what we got. Now we got Ukraine and Russia, and you have Trump actually getting on Europe after a bizarre and blistering attack from Russia into Ukraine. And you have the Polish incursion of drones. Now, guys, listen, I've been on the news. I was on with Michael Steele, MSNBC. The danger here is that I called Poland months ago. I'm going to just take credit. I was well ahead of everybody. Just like I was ahead of J6, because that's what happens when you've actually been in Eastern Europe multiple times and even in Ukraine lately. So you have all that happening also. What do we have here? We have a president who capitulates to Putin again. Why? Because he's also sort of in bed with Orban in Hungary. So we as Americans should be up in arms about this. We have a Putin sympathizer, whether it's on accident or purpose, whether he's ignorant or he's not ignorant, whether he's specifically on Putin's side or he's just stupid, whether you're getting shot on purpose or shot on accident, you're still getting shot. That's just how life is. So we have a president who's either stupid or complicit or both, who is really dismantling the whole NATO system to the point that you have JD Vance, everybody's sort of in lockstep, right? About, hey, we really, it's up to NATO, it's up to the EU. This is very, very important. And let me say why, because I'm telling you now, Poland is no joke. Poland is no joke. This can escalate. And if you have 19 drones going into Polish airspace, there's an issue. And that issue is they were shot down, is what Trump said. So no big deal. No big deal. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It just shows how unserious and dangerous it is, but it shows that there's a specific goal or objective to what Trump is doing. And just like us covering over the Maxwell emails, we're covering over this foreign policy issue based on the breathless clickbait reporting from our mainstream media. Really, it's just incredible and such an awful way to watch them sort of fall in to all this ridiculousness, and to the point of firing people who just restate what Charlie Kirk said. So we have that going on. And we have Netanyahu from Israel falling in, or actually buttressing, these conspiracy theories about leftists killing the right. Now we have another world leader, Netanyahu, who certainly has issues and problems of his own. Awful what's going on over there. Now he's coming out and supporting these same type of conspiracy theories. Everybody needs to be aware of this. It's pretty interesting, you know. I've really, really tried to say, hey, I'm Denver Riggleman, and I'm here to point out whoever is wrong. Democrats or Republicans, independents, Green Party, I don't care. But it's very difficult because since I don't believe that they're sky fairies talking directly into my frontal lobe, I have a very difficult time with policy or accusations based on the unprovable. I really do. And it puts me in a very difficult situation, because one of the great things about America is our freedom of religion, our freedom to worship as we choose. But the thing is, we also have a freedom to not worship. And anybody who says this was founded of a Christian nation is just sort of ludicrous. We never wanted to go that route. The founding fathers knew that that went to ruin and doom. And if you guys want to know why I know this, look at Thomas Jefferson when he went against Patrick Henry in Virginia, him and James Madison, who was the first congressman in the district I represented, Virginia's 5th. Did you guys a little bit of history today for you guys? That's why I tried to conduct myself in a way, right, that was respectful to the institutions of the Constitution, but also knowing Virginia's role in the history of the formation of the Republic. So when you're looking at this, when you're looking at what happened there with the establishment of religion in Virginia, which Jefferson and Madison said, oh no, and Patrick Henry was like, yes, right? I would have been well against Patrick Henry as a Virginian at that point. And I know that, you know, in colonial times. So I'm having this difficult time in this juxtaposition of loving what we are as a country and what we stand for, the ideal, the dream that is the United States, of freedom of religion, but also but also knowing we have freedom from religion. And the fact is, I don't want any laws that are just based on somebody's belief systems. That's not great, guys. That's awful. That actually leads to Christo-fascism, authoritarianism, right? A theocracy. And that's something we don't want. And right now, when you see the Stephen Millers or the Laura Loomers, right, the glue sniffing weirdos, right, those white nationalist sort of crazies, you start to get a little bit worried about what's going on out there from the words coming out of their mouth. It's just really bizarre to me. And I think we got to be very careful. And I'm understating that. I'm actually as concerned as I've ever been for this country right now. And you guys know that. It's because I always worried about fantasy-based policymaking. So we have that going on. And you get to a point that as you're watching so many things, we have a government that cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. Disinformation coming from law enforcement, maybe misinformation, depending on if it's directed or non-directed. But law enforcement seems to be as confused as everybody else in the administration about what's going on, right, with Tyler Robinson. And all you got to do is look at Thomas Crooks. Same profile. I bet you they have the same search history. I bet they shared some of the same memes. Nihilistic, Groyper-like, or alt-right, or just accelerationists with no hope, bleak, radicalized online, radicalized in gaming, radicalized on Reddit, radicalized in Discord, radicalized on the Chans. And, with radicalization comes foreign intervention, right? Comes foreign disinformation sources. And we have completely dismantled pretty much all of our foreign disinformation funding from the FBI, from the State Department. It all comes back to that, doesn't it, guys? There is no baseline of truth for everybody to rely on because it's so skewed. That's why I wanted to talk tonight. And listen, there was a part of me, I have done this every night now for a while, where I'm like, do I need a night off? Is this too much? Right? Am I talking about too much? Am I trying to roll too much into this? But this is the beginning of the cowboy story. Everything you're hearing on the news is wait until you hear this shit. That's how brutal this is. And I can say that everything I learned, right, was from intelligence training, college courses, operations, things like that. But looking at the years that I studied Bigfoot believers and how deep down the rabbit hole they went on belief systems that were absolutely unprovable, you get to a point that, it seems pretty benign, but it almost seems like, you know, it's like almost what marijuana is to heroin, right? It's a gateway drug. You have your gateway conspiracy theories. And once you believe in one conspiracy theory, it seems you go downhill and believe all of them. And I guess that is one of the biggest worries that I have. So lastly, I put out something on Blue Sky Next where I said, if I were to run as a third party candidate, would you support it if you agreed with me 60%? You guys know I asked questions specifically. What was interesting is that Blue Sky was more negative than X. I wanted to see, right? Am I actually planning to run? No, I don't think so. Not now, because I have so many companies that are happening right now. What I found interesting is how tribal some of the answers were. And I've always wondered about, what is the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result as we get close to 40 trillion in debt. We have a complete breakdown of functions. We have one party that's off the rails, another party that doesn't seem to know what they're doing. We have rule of laws down the tubes. And I remember people looking at me like, no, you got to be a Democrat because Republicans are destroying the country. And if you run as third party, it just turns to MAGA. There's no data to support that. I'm like, what's your data? What's your sourcing? And I would just say Ross Perot. People get pissed, But the thing is, it is difficult to run as a third party candidate. But I think we got to come to a time where there has to be another way. There has to be a rational, insane way. Somebody's not afraid to swing the million-pound shit hammer of facts. And I guess what I was surprised on Blue Sky and Exit that some people just got personal right off the bat. And you can see who was tribal. You could see who automatically was thinking with their amygdala and not automatically trying to say, you know what, how would that work? How would that happen? And a lot of people, I get it. There's a strong feeling that if you run as a third party, maybe you hurt a candidate that should win over a candidate that shouldn't. Sure. But are we really down the line? We've been in this system for so long that we can only identify as D's or R's. I reject the premise. I reject it. And I think anybody can do it, right? It's people like me. And I'm not being arrogant. I don't want a D or R behind my name. I just don't. Now it could be that I might have to run as a Democrat at a time because I don't think I fit in the Republican Party at all. There is no way that I can be in a party where the party leader is a sexual abuser and felon and somebody who believes in conspiracy theories and QAnon and aligns, it seems, with white nationalists based on his comments about Proud Boys and the stand back and stand by and some of the other things he's been saying lately that are very disturbing. But I also, saw some other people, right, that just said, would you wait till we beat the Republicans first? And a third party would be great. Some people trying to think it out. And here's what I ask of all of you. Do you think of yourself as a D or an R? Like if somebody were to say, hey, you're a Democrat or Republican, what would you answer? And the other thing I would ask you, is that the first thing you think of when you self-identify? I don't. I think it's a Denver Riggleman American, And honestly, as much as I hate bullies, I hate any party affiliation. I hate it. Everybody's like, Denver, you ran as a Republican. Guys, I ran for office, federal office twice in my life. Once I won, once I lost. And I lost during COVID in a church with people waving Confederate flags at me. And it was like, you were a Republican, you sucked. No, I didn't. I certainly saw what was happening under the Trump regime. And I certainly noticed that there was no such thing as a new Republican that I tried to define myself. But I also see a party, Democratic Party, that can't seem to get out of its own way. And when I look at what's happening, when you look at the killing of Charlie Kirk, awful thing. When you're looking at Epstein files, when you're looking at Trump's lies, when you're looking at foreign policy based on graft and corruption, when you're looking at what's happening in Ukraine and Russia or Israel and Gaza, when you're looking at what's happening around the world, when you look at what's happening to trade and tariffs and alienating our allies and NATO going the way of the dodo bird based on Donald Trump's proclivities and wanting to make money probably in other countries, who the hell knows? Are you saying that we're stuck with this? Are you saying that George Washington was wrong? He knew what political parties would do. So as I'm coming to an end tonight, and I'm going to try to look at some of your questions. Remember, the questions are on the bottom. So if you guys have 7,000 comments on here, for some reason, I'm trying to, let me see. God, I'm afraid to push any button on here, any button, because I don't want to go away. I can only see what's on the bottom. And Stoney, I get it. He goes, he's worried if we split the sane vote, the insane vote gets an advantage. Maybe. But if I'm in a general and I can ride through into the general and I do my polling and I know what my crosstabs look like, just maybe I can fund specific messaging where I can bridge, right? Say the moderate Democrats and the moderate Republicans get enough votes on each side that they don't want the crazies. And what if I could sneak across with a plurality? Would that be the first step? Am I? No, guys, I'm actually having a philosophical conversation with you guys right now, right? I like that. Someone asked me if I'm a DRR. I tell them I'm a human who votes. L. Miller. Thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Miller. I don't want to make any assumptions. Or it might not be a Mr. or Mrs. at all. I don't want to make any assumptions. The risk is there. Thank you, Stoney. And, and that's the thing that you have right now, right? Is that, and I'm conversing with your comments right now, but that's the issue that I have is when I see all of this, I want to fight for people without having to be pigeonholed into a specific philosophy or where people are screaming at me because I don't believe exactly what they believe in. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to back down. I've already been there. I've already been told to pander a little bit. You got to give a little bit. You got to compromise. And I did. And I compromised. And by the time I compromise, I'm already so far down the hole that I can't sleep at night. Right. Anyhow, I know I'm getting off onto a tangent. So Bob Gimlin. So we have this story and afterwards the Bigfoot screamer calls me and he says, hey, look at me going back to the beginning of the night. And I hope if everybody missed the story at the beginning, Bob Gimlin of the famous Patterson Gimlin film told me a joke. And that's what I've been using throughout this as my bridge, right? Told me a joke that the difference between a fairy tale starts with once upon a time and a cowboy story starts with wait till you hear this shit. And it was because I'd asked him if he had been hoaxed. And I think he was trying to tell me that Bigfoot thing was bullshit. The most famous film in the world. Afterwards, the Bigfoot screamer who set up the meeting, my good friend from one of the tribes, he calls me and he says, hey, Bob asked if you were one of the good guys. And I said, yes. And if you read my chapter about Bob Gimlin, I try to present it in a very factual based way, very realistic down the line on what happened in that interview. And I taped it. So it was pretty factual. He said, are you one of the good guys? I said, yeah, I'm one of the good guys. But it seems in the last 6 years, being one of the good guys of the white hats does not matter. And I think my issue and the reason that I'm so against self-identifying as a party is because it seems now anti-American. And I know. I mean, it's because of the rule system in Congress. It's because that I know the majority rules absolutely on the floor of the House. And that you guys really don't have a say. Backbencher congressmen or congressmen that aren't committee chairs don't have a say. And really, they're just going with their party leaders. We do have a bit of a Duma now. A lot of the power of Congress has been given up to the executive. I also still have a bit of guilt. You always lay with that. A couple reasons. I have guilt that I wasn't strong enough at the beginning where I thought I could change things. And at the end, that I was too confrontational and allowed the seat to go to a nut job. How's living with that on both sides? And I have to live with that. So I go from trying to compromise and winning to thinking that somehow I was charismatic or smart enough to overcome a MAGA challenger in a primary during COVID with only 2,500 voters in a church after I officiated a gay wedding and voted to keep pre-existing health benefits under the ACA. And that's just because of my startling good looks and intelligence I could win. So as I'm watching what's happening, I'm enraged, guys. I'm enraged at what's happening out there. I'm enraged at myself. I'm enraged that with everything that I've done in my life as a successful CEO, New York Times bestselling author, somebody who's been in Congress, on the J6 committee, somebody who is a decorated military officer, somebody who's been all around the world, done incredible things, I still feel powerless to stop what's happening. And I ask you guys to mobilize. Mobilize in a way that you confront people intellectually and mobilize for the 2026 midterms. Ensure that you are doing something. Don't feel powerless. Go do something. Don't doom scroll. Don't do any of that. You have your jobs that you work, the people that you take care of, and the people that you love. I need all of you to go out and identify who you're supporting in the midterms and support them financially. Support them with your voice. Support them with your persona. Support them online. But to support them with a clap on the back and knowing it's awful out there for anybody running because we have a tribalized, disinformation-laden campaign environment run by consultants, usually with no consciences, massive independent expenditures with billionaires and millionaires running dark money PACs, pumping money into places, and with gerrymandered districts that are taking away any swing districts to the point that we might not really have that many swing districts left. 2026 is existential. Everybody says every election is the most important ever. But when you hear the words of this administration, they are of somebody who was brought up conservative. I don't understand how you go from that to state-owned Chinese enterprises and not supporting Ukraine against Russia. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I don't understand any Christian conservative that would vote for Donald Trump or would support Laura Loomer or Pete Hegseth. I just don't get it. Or RFK Jr. I don't understand the backsliding into the Stone Ages of medicine. All this is based on fantastical thinking. And it's based on a party that's gone nuts and another party that has no idea what to do, that are foundering in their own messaging, that do some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen with people who have no right to be leaders of that party. And my head explodes. And then I think, you know what? It's politics and consultants and polling and crosstabs and just winning your district. And I understand it and I'm still angry. I understand it and I'm still angry. That's why there has to be a third way. There has to be such a strong movement inside one of these that it actually takes it back somehow, because the MAGA movement has taken the GOP. There is no GOP. It's MAGA, America First. That's all it is. Anyhow, I'm at 43 minutes. I know I like to, this is about the time. So Raymond Smith says, okay, you said it. What did I say, Raymond? And and you're right about Fox. You're right about that. But again, how do you be loud? Understand what's happening first. Understanding that there's memes and there's a whole other network of far right and alt-right media that you're not aware of. You're just not. You don't even know where to go. Go try to get on 4chan tonight. Just go. Go get on Reddit. Go find where you need to go. Try to find some Telegram stuff, guys. Go see it. It's hard, isn't it? There's encrypted chat channels everywhere. Meme boards. There's a whole nother subterranean social media radicalizing bit farm that's happening right under your nose and you'll never know it. Democrats don't have anything like it. There's no Steve Bannon on the Democratic side. No Ben Shapiro. You guys think there are? Midas Touch, closest? Not really. They don't have that kind of juice, right? Even Candace Owens, right? You're looking at all of them. Sorry, guys. YouTube, crazies. Benny Johnson, explosive, everywhere. People are everywhere. Matt Walsh, everywhere. Elon Musk, you can't compete with him. X, it's an alt-right platform. All right, guys, what a night, right? What a night. I don't have my video to play, my alien abduction video. So right now at 45:15, with a lot of people watching, I like to say, I like it. Yep, Graham Plattner, very good. Lives in but have to know it's good. Listen, mobilize. Mobilize here. Mobilize here, right? And confront every single person who drags stupidity to you. I call it compassionate confrontation, but it's beyond that. Do not let any lie stand in your presence that is based on hate, religious fervor, anything Trump says, any type of conspiracy theories, lying about what happened in that shooting. The reason the FBI and law enforcement hasn't released the shooting credentials and what's happened is because they're not quite sure, because it's so confusing, because this kid was an accelerationist. And listen, if he had a trans girlfriend, really has nothing to do with the radicalization, because there is no comparison, right? When you're looking at all the right violence also. And if there's one person who judges an entire class and that's what they do, it looks a lot like the 1930s, guys. So anyhow, let's just use facts and truth. Facts and truth. And it's going to be hard. There's going to be people that say, oh my God, you don't understand. This is an attack on Christianity, the Meghan McCains of the world, right? Grievance Christianity. That's all this is. And I don't understand it, being raised the way I was. I really thought Christianity was about love, but obviously it's about hating and dehumanizing an entire group of people and going into this kind of sort of ideological crusades or inquisition again. And I will not allow it to happen for me and for everybody that I love and for all my friends. I will do everything I can to fight it. But the 2026 midterms, facts and truth, facts and data, facts and truth, facts and data. And just remember, everybody, it's going to get worse before it gets worse. I hope everybody has a splendid Sunday evening. If there's any comments, please come up and do this, right? Thank you. You guys are the best. You know what? If I'm going to run, you know what? I'll let my Denver After Dark audience know first. Thank you, guys. Have a great night and catch you in the middle of the week. And then I hope you're back with me next Sunday. And see you later, guys. I'm going to end the stream. And I was about to say one more thing, because I always forget and Doug gets mad at me. And I hate saying it, but I'm going to say it. Are you guys ready? Please subscribe to my YouTube or my Substack, or follow me on X, or follow me on Blue Sky, and spread the word, because I'll be damned if I shouldn't have 1 million followers so that we can have 1 million people drinking on Sunday night at 9. I'll see you guys.